Guess who feels like a right Wally? Correct, I do. Back in the summer of 2022, I was the cock of the north, smugly strutting about southeast England, proclaiming that I'd gotten the Platinum Trophy in reviewing ZX Spectrum games based on TV shows, wrapping it up in a nice little bow of 100 episodes. However, I was wrong. A chance flick through one of my favourite channels on YouTube, that being the ever-genial Batter H when I was lounging around the place all bloated on Christmas Day, alerted me to the one I'd missed. It was the one that got away. It was the Redshift 1985 adaptation of BBC sci-fi series The Tripods. And it is now time to rectify that ridiculous mistake and set the record straight with the very uneven episode 101. Ugh. The Tripods was originally a set of novels by sci-fi pensmith John Christopher. I shouldn't really say pensmith because that would indicate that John actually sort of manufactured pens, but he didn't. He wrote books, and probably with a typewriter. Not all books in the series were adapted, with only the first two, The White Mountains and The City of Gold and Lead, taken from the paperback to the small screen. Michael Gray waved his scythe in the same way he did for the original run of Doctor Who after failing ratings curtailed BBC's thirst for any more series. Meaning we missed out on the concluding tale, The Pool of Fire, and the prequel series, When the Tripods Came, which, contrary to the name, isn't an erotic tale. It is a post-apocalyptic yarn with gigantic three-legged vehicles piloted by alien entities known as the Masters that have enslaved the human race and regressed society to that of medieval times, which I presume that everyone finds horrible except for your nan who voted for Brexit to get England back as it was on the biscuit tins, or something like the Darling Buds of May. Humans are fitted with implants at the age of 14 to stop them rebelling against their overlords in a method called capping, which obviously sets up the story for those aged 10 to 13 to be mankind's saviour. Proper shag, didn't we? It's probably a good thing they didn't finish the stories, as it'll only have resulted in the Tripods figuring out that you could easily best your opponent by distracting them with 1-minute videos of a super noodle head twat shouting while playing Minecraft. Disney own the rights to the Tripods series, but a script has been kicking around now for about 15 years for The White Mountain, so I kinda see that coming out, especially since the young adult adaptations fad has now passed. For every success story in Twilight and the Hunger Games, there was like a million Divergents or Golden Compasses. So, this troublesome game that I missed 4 to 7 years ago then. Did I miss something good? In the words of centrist dad dressing culinary Columbo Gary Eats, let's give it a go. Redshift were the rather short-lived publishing house who birthed Tripods onto the shelf of your local WH Smiths. They had been a strategy game specialist that had forged close ties with Games Workshop thanks to their licence of Games Workshop's Apocalypse board game and its add-on packs. They also happened to publish the first of Julian Gallup's Rebel Star series, that being Rebel Star Raiders. When Redshift's main investor pulled funding, Redshift folded like a pack of cards, with several of the team moving to Games Workshop. A cracking career move that, as they're still absolutely thriving to this day, what with their Prozac Star Wars stories and their funny named paints and little metal fella figurines. It was programmed by Watermill Productions Limited pair, David Sheridan and Bill Potts, and I'm buggered if I can find anything else they've done at all, anywhere. Tripods was released on the Amstrad and Spectrum in 1985 with a version for the Commodore 64 planned but later scrapped. It was retailed for the rather hefty price of £12.95, and in exchange for that you'd get a primarily basic coded text adventure with a good line in very blue and very green graphics. Blue and green should never be seen and all that, and it's certainly nice to get back to the strain that has irrevocably damaged my retinas with the ZX Spectrum's colours. The comforting nostalgia of broken eyes. Well, I say it's a text adventure, but it's not really. You don't type in text commands as such, rather you tap in a few single button responses to what's happening on the screen. A better comparison would perhaps be whatever genre Lords of Midnight was. It's a sort of RPG, I suppose, a very slow-moving first-person RPG, if you like. You are a would-be recruit aiming to join the rebel forces in the southeastern mountains of France, and you must move across Europe to get there, trying to survive as best you can. A rather neat feature is that up to 4 players can play at any one time, playing from different areas of the map, or even the same areas of the map, if they so choose, although the 2 characters I don't think ever kind of meet, if you will. Each player gets a go until they've used their allotted moves for the day, then night falls and the next player can elbow their way onto the Spectrum for more tripod avoiding laughs. You start out as the very picture of health, packed to your humanoid gills with credits, a full belly and an iron will to make tracks across continental Europe. There are different terrains to scooch across, whereupon you can find numerous food, weapons, creatures and other equipment to aid you in your heroic pursuit to bring down your oppressors. It's a vast game, so the game allows you to save your progress onto a tape if you so choose. On the way to the White Mountains you'll encounter many dangers, with the prevalent being of course those big old units, the tripods themselves. With each encounter, your immunity to their dastardly dehumanising capping diminishes. Once it's reduced to 0, you'll be as brainless as the crowd at a Millwall game. All of this is played out in real time, with heavy speech marks either side of the word real time, because it's real time for a snail. You see, the screen will refresh with the correct graphical display every time you either move forward or turn left, or indeed right. It's -5 frames a second gameplay at its most cumbersome. The graphics at least lend a sense of danger to the gameplay. The tripods loom large over the trees and buildings, and in a win for fans of perspective, get larger as they get nearer. We've all got to like that, haven't we? The slow redraw rate of the graphics makes these encounters with the Goliaths a bit too cumbersome, as does the poor graphics in general. You'll often see a city in the background and go, "Oh, that big fella is going to give me a clip round the synapses. I better hide amongst the tall buildings," only to find it disappears or is arbitrarily blocked by an invisible doohickey I don't know. It's not completely unplayable, but the shonky presentation sure does not assist with its mechanics. Not only is the terrain somewhat baffling to look at, but you don't see objects in the distance, meaning you don't know where to head to. You will only find out that you're near an object when you're stood right on top of it. Plus, it all looks, well, yuck, doesn't it? The horizon lines don't really work and are downright unsightly. Plus, the assembly of the object assets like trees, buildings and marshes is really unseemly and feels really ill thought out. I mean, it's understandable given the limitations of the 48K Spectrum, and it was a 2-man inexperienced team that made it. And basically what they're trying to do is program in thousands of 8-directional views of each location. But the fact remains that it's fairly butterface all the same. The tripods is another one of those grand ideas that is ultimately hamstrung by the hardware, even though it's still quite fun in its own way. It's essentially like if Bethesda was tasked to put Fallout 4 onto a Game Boy. I would imagine it would end up pretty similar to this. Tripods has ideas as big as its 3-legged menaces, but in the end, it ends up being a one-legged man in an arse-kicking contest. Crash reviewed the tripods in issue 15 of their periodical. They called it easy to play but will probably take a while to complete. Although it takes many ideas from Lords of Midnight, it is a bore. Overpriced. Next on Spectrum, games based on TV shows, hopefully nothing. Hopefully that's them done this time. If I have made an error and missed anything else, please let me know so I can trudge back to the coalface with a sense of shame on my shoulders. Next on games based on TV shows, however, we will be dealing with the Animaniacs and their 10-pin alley bowling on the PlayStation 1. What a curious combo. Like, subscribe. Okay, thanks, bye.